In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the ArcGIS online program and show you many of the steps as much as I can squeeze into my 15 minutes for doing the laboratory. The first step that you need is to open up the document that's on Angel in the Labs folder that contains the link to the particular map that we'll be working with, some data sets that are built around Central America and Hurricane Mitch. So all you have to do is click on this and it will open up a map view of Central America. And this is the first time that you've seen the ArcGIS online, and I'll just show you the basic controls that it has. There's a zoom in and a zoom out button, and if you click and drag you can move around the world. Our area of interest will be in Central America, so we'll zoom into that. One of the tasks you can do in GIS is the simple identify tool. Just by clicking with the left button, we can click on any one of these features or one of these countries, and it will show us the outline of the country clicked on and some information about it. So this begins to help you find what the 7 countries of Central America are, something that we'll need to know for later. So basic controls are zoom in, zoom out, go back to the default zoom. We can close that window so we can see zooming in. Another item that's of use is to click on the button called Content, which then shows all of the different map layers or themes that are available in this map. Most of them are not turned on. What's turned on right now is countries of Central America. If I uncheck that, it'll just show me my base map, which also shows the countries and their capitals, and useful later, the topography. And right off the bat I can see that Honduras has the most coverage of mountainous topography of all the countries. Guatemala also, but not as large a percentage. So those are the basic operations that let us use this. We are able to turn on a layer as well by clicking in the checkbox and discovering what the capital cities are of each of the countries. Panama is Panama City, San Jose, Costa Rica, Managua, Nicaragua, etc. And that becomes question number 1, which you'll fill in on your answer sheet. Question number 1 is part of a table of information that you're going to fill out about Central America, which will, doing this will accomplish 2 things for you. One thing is that it will help you to get an idea of the geography of Central America, so we can see where the storm hit and understand the relationship between Hurricane Mitch and Central American geography. And also it'll help you begin to learn how to use the tools of ArcGIS Online. So we're all the way up to question number 1 on page 2, and we will and now you can go ahead and write down all the capital cities. Task number 3, step 8, and onward for a while, is the objective is to investigate these other data layers, these other collections of information that we have about Central America. We can turn off the capitals and add populated places, and it's probably they've listed just about every single one possible, and we can see that some of the countries have a wide distribution of populated places. Honduras is pretty evenly distributed except for the most severe mountains. Nicaragua is a little less dense. Panama has a large empty area. So those are some observations that you can briefly put into the table as to satisfy question 2. the other layers that are going to be looked at and evaluated are the airports, and you can look and see. What would be interesting now is to look at the legend and click on the legend button and discover what the different colors of airports are. A lot of them seem to be other, which is probably small private airstrips that would probably barely be called an airport. And we also have civilian and military, and then combo airports. And this can give you some idea about the transportation access throughout these countries by looking at the airports. Going back to the content, we can turn off airports and look at the lakes, of which there's one very significant lake, Lake Managua in Nicaragua. It's the only one we have listed. And also the railroads, the railroad network, which is also fairly revealing as to where it is and what parts of what countries have access. So another step, moving ahead to approximately steps 11, 12, 13. At this point you have filled out most of the table in your answer sheet that most of the table that demonstrates the extent of various features in these countries. Steps 11 through 13 or 14 introduce the precipitation distribution for each country. There's a little catch here in that this precipitation distribution is a complete coverage layer. It's a polygon layer, and you can't see the country names through it very well. However, there is a tool in ArcGIS Online that'll help. If you hover over the layer and go to the little drop down button, you can drop down, ask for transparency, and ask for 50% transparent. And now we can see the country names and borders through the, maybe we should go a little more, through the colors of the rainfall. And next we'll need to switch on the legend to see what those colors mean. So having made that transparency and turning on the legend, we can see where in these reddish or purplish and dark and brownish areas are areas of extreme precipitation. No, excuse me, those are the areas of lowest precipitation. We should be looking at my key. And the purple areas, especially along the coastal areas, are the areas with the highest precipitation. And some of these precipitation amounts are 4,000 to 5,000 millimeters, which is 4 to 5 meters, which is upwards of 200 inches of rain in a year. So some of these purple and blue areas are extremely rainy, generally along the coast, and there's actually some areas in the interior that are much drier. So this gives you the opportunity to answer question 3, which helps you to fill in the rainfall distribution for each country. And finally, we can look at the type of agriculture that's practiced in each part of Central America. We can use the drop-down button again to get transparency and go about 50% transparent and turn on the legend, and we can see what the various land uses are. And we have in this area we have very forested areas and a lot of forested areas. El Salvador, heavily agricultural. Nicaragua with a lot of variety, and these distinctions between the countries will help to answer questions 4 and 5, which will be filled in to the table, which is on page 1 of the answer key. The last question that would be answered before we move along to Hurricane Mitch itself is the mountain characteristics. We can go back to content, turn off land uses, and at this point we can examine by looking at the texture of the map and the look of the map, which country is most mountainous, less mountainous, some mountains but mixed, lowlands and mountainous. So that'll allow us to get all the way up to step 21 when we begin to look at Hurricane Mitch itself, now that we have a good idea of what Central America is like. So in order to move on to Hurricane Mitch itself, we need to go back to the document, scroll down to about step 21, where there's another map for us to open up. We click on the blue and open up another map, which shows us latitude, longitude. We ought to perhaps turn off the continents. That's getting in the way. We have latitude, longitude, Central American countries, which can be turned off if we wish to. And now we have another look at Central America. It looks the same until we begin to look closely at the storm tracks in particular. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at what's called pre-Hurricane Mitch and Mitch 2. So this is Hurricane Mitch when it was still a tropical storm, and this is day 2 of the overall event, and it shows the track of the hurricane as it went from a tropical storm, developed into a hurricane, and tracked its way toward the Gulf of Honduras, where it became troublesome. If we look at the legend, we can see in the shapes, the square shape, that's when it was a tropical depression and a tropical storm, and here's where it just about made the transition from tropical to depression to tropical storm. And then the colors of the dots are the Saffir-Simpson rating, and here it is all the way up to category 5 with a very, very low central pressure, extremely high winds, and here's the latitude and longitude, the location of this. Getting ahead soon, the pop-ups help us to identify it. And finally, questions 8 and 9 instruct us, 8 all the way, actually 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are instructing us just to track Hurricane Mitch by clicking on the dots and looking at the information that indicates where the storm was, what time it was there. 15Z is a time zone relay. It's called Zulu time. I don't know why, but it references the prime meridian, or where the time is assumed to be, where zero time is, so to speak. So this is just the hour of the day with respect to a fixed time zone, and there's the date and the pressure and what the storm was classified as. And questions 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 just ask you to go through dot by dot and identify the storm at various times and at various strengths. Finally, it's possible to open up the what's called the attribute table, the information, the table where all this information about each of these dots is stored, and we can do that by going to Content, looking at Mitch 2, asking for the drop down, and asking for something called Show Item Details, which generates for us the wrong map. So I'm going to go back to, use the back arrow, and oh dear, let's see, Mitch 2, legend, and content, and Mitch 2, and it's show table, not show item details, excuse me. So that's where you can find out the all the information and every single point about Hurricane Mitch, if you prefer to look at the measurement by measurement, position by position of it in a table form. Task 5, starting with step 36, is in the next video. So this one will end, and a video called Mitch 2 will be the next one to access.